Hello again, and welcome back to Bible Talk with Bruce and Becky. As you can see, we've gone on location this time. Angle is not good from here, but we're seated beneath the great oak tree, or terebinth of Mamre, where many events in Genesis took place. Actually, we're seated on our veranda overlooking our vast estate. Let's continue with Genesis.
I'm out here without my glasses. You're going to have to do the reading.
Okay. Becky didn't bring her glasses.
I did, but I don't see them. I don't know where they went.
They ran away.
Okay.
You sure you had them out here?
Who knows?
We need a floor manager. Okay. Genesis chapter 35. Wrapping up our time with Jacob and Esau this week. God is sending Jacob and his family back to the land of Canaan after their long sojourn in Padan Aram, or modern-day Syria. First verse of chapter 35, God said to Jacob, "Arise and go up to Bethel and dwell there. Make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." The patriarchs have often set up altars for significant events, but I believe this is the first time that God tells one of them to build an altar. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you. Purify yourselves and change your garments." Notice again, as I mentioned, I believe last time, these people are not yet pure monotheists. They have brought foreign gods with them from the different places they've lived, just as Rachel stole the teraphim from her father Laban. Part of this, I think, is probably superstition, what scholars call folk religion. They may accept the god El, the god of Bethel, but they still worship other gods. As kind of a safety measure, I would say. More gods the better, in case you're in trouble. Is the way that people sometimes look at it in those days.
It kind of reminds you that this monotheism is not a human invention.
Good point. It comes from God. Human beings tend to multiply gods when they have their own way. As for example, not to pick on the Hindus, but the Hindus have thousands and thousands of gods and goddesses. And usually a family will pick a favorite and have a household shrine to that one. They also are taking a ritual bath and putting on new garments to indicate the change in their lifestyle from here on. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, so that I may make there an altar to the God who answered me the day of my distress and has been with me wherever I have gone. They literally will go up to Bethel. It's about 1,000 feet in altitude higher than Shechem, where they're departing from. So they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods that they had and the rings that were in their ears. Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree that was near Shechem. He buried these gods, probably not so he could come back and get them later. I don't believe they're mentioned again. Becky, why is it, and I don't know the answer to this, they included the rings from their ears, things that were buried?
I know that slaves were given rings for their ears. And I don't know if this was some kind of an honor to a god to have their ears pierced.
I don't know either. That's not a bad guess. I'm going to guess that they were what we might call amulets, even good luck charms. got in trouble, you would use one of those to try to keep the trouble away from you in the form of magic. That's just a guess on my part. They included them in the foreign gods that they put away. And as they journeyed, a terror from God fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. God keeps the enemies away from them with some kind of fear of approaching the Israelites. Can you remember any other time in the Pentateuch, books of Moses, that a terror from God keeps enemies away?
Well, I remember when the Israelites left Egypt, that the terror of them came upon the Egyptians, and they gave them all sorts of treasure as they were leaving.
Okay. I don't recall if that was a terror from God or just
Look it up. Look it up.
an influence. Not now. We've already wasted away enough frivolous time.
We'll look it up.
Okay, Becky will look it up. I can think of the Song of Moses in Exodus at the sea when God delivered them from the Egyptians. And he said that God put a terror on all those round about who might interfere with their journey through the wilderness. But God is in control and he's protecting Jacob and his sons here. But all will not go well. It never does with Jacob. Jacob came to Luz, L-U-Z, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And there he built an altar and called the place El Bethel. An altar that he named the location of. Becky can translate for us from the Hebrew. What would El Bethel mean?
God, house of God.
God of the house of God, probably. Indicating, as he's going to say, that God had appeared to him at that place before. Because there God had revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. The time that he spent wrestling with an angel that night. And he called the place Bethel at that time. As I've said before, Luz or Bethel gets renamed over and over, depending on various events that take place there. And Deborah, Rebecca's nurse, died. He was buried under an oak below Bethel. So we called his name Alon Bakuth. This nurse had been the only one to accompany Rachel when she left her family home. She had been her nurse all of these years since she was a child. So there's sorrow when this nurse dies. And of course they call the name of the place Alon Bakuth, as you would expect.
Of course.
Meaning oak of weeping.
Like a weeping willow on the end of a weeping oak.
A weeping oak. Don't pay any attention to the wind that's blowing things around. It just gives more interest in this particular episode. God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Padan Aram, blessed him. We notice that the blessings through these patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and now Jacob, involves many descendants and the land that God is going to give them. God said to him, your name is Jacob. No longer shall your name be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. Israel, whose meaning is somewhat undetermined by scholars, seems to mean something like Prince of God. But God often changes the people's names in the Old Testament to indicate a change in what they're going to be facing now, or what will happen from now on. So he called his name Israel, and God said to him, I am El Shaddai. Most translations say God Almighty for that Hebrew term. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from your loins. Were I Jacob at this point,
Yeah.
I might be thinking to myself, well, I've had relations with 4 women, 2 wives, and each of their concubines, and I produced 13 sons, 12 sons, and a daughter. How much more fruitful do I have to be? But he's talking to Israel here, not as just an individual, but as a man from whom nations shall come, and kings and princes shall come. The land that I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you, and I will give the land to your offspring after you. God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him, and Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering on it, poured oil on it. So Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken with him Bethel. I believe we're repeating ourselves over and over, and repeating ourselves some more. But we're meant to know that this place is called Bethel. Now, if you've read through your Old Testament, you might recall some of the prophets, especially Amos and Joel and Hosea, who condemned what took place at Bethel because it became a cult center where people worshipped other gods, what they considered a holy place, and they have a hard time wrapping their minds around the idea God wants them to worship Him exclusively. Later on, that will be encoded in the law of Moses. You shall have no other gods before me or beside me. Well, they journey from Bethel. They're going farther into Canaan, verse 16. When they're still a long distance from Ephrath, Rachel went into labor, and she had hard labor. You have to remember what the territory of Ephrath includes. Come on, Becky, you can do it.
Bethlehem?
Yes.
Oh.
Bethlehem. Becky wins another prize. For best Bible student this episode. They're near Bethlehem. Called Bethlehem Ephrathah in other places. And some distance could mean a long distance or maybe about a mile. Some have speculated, but they're approaching Bethlehem. And Rachel goes into her hard labor.
Somebody else made a trip to Bethlehem when she was pregnant.
That's true. But her labor was not hard like Rachel, and she didn't die in childbirth. But Mary, of course, mother of Jesus, is approaching Bethlehem from the other side. As we may remember in the Gospel of Matthew, quoting Jeremiah, a voice is heard in Ramah, which is this area, Rachel weeping for her children, died and there are no more. When her labor was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." Blessed by having a son as she's dying. And as her soul was departing, she was dying, she called his name Ben-Oni. I don't know if women have enough mental acuity when they're dying from hard labor to give their son a name. She named him Son of My Sorrow, or Son of Weeping. Jacob's not too happy with that name, apparently, so instead of Ben-Oni, his father called him the name that he would bear, Benjamin. Benjamin. Happen to remember what Benjamin means. Benjamin.
Son of something.
Son of something. Son of the right hand. Being right-handed was considered a blessing, and the right hand was a place of honor and strength. You may recall Jesus sits down at the right hand of God, place of power, and being left-handed throughout the ancient world, even up through Roman times and perhaps into the Middle Ages. Being left-handed was considered a curse.
Sinister.
Sinister in Latin. He was left-handed. Way to go, Becky.
Or gauche.
Ghost. Also left-handed. Right?
It's the left bank. He's
Left
gauche.
Okay. This woman here, she's a linguist. Alright. Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day, says the writer. Another one of the little indications that the writer is living a long time after the events of the story. Probably Moses here saying it's there to this day. Picture Moses perhaps in the wilderness here. I suspect it's when he wrote at least the first draft of the Pentateuch. Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the town of Eder. Now verse 22 inserted here seems a bit out of place or odd. While Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. What's this doing here? And what's its significance?
I don't have the foggiest.
Well, Becky, I would hope on some help here.
Well, what's the outcome of what kind of a kid does she have here?
Nothing further is said about this at this point. Perhaps in Genesis, I don't recall. First, Reuben is the firstborn of Jacob. And this is not just a case of a son getting the hots for his father's concubine and having a sexual encounter. This is a blatant attempt by Reuben to seize the control of the family.
Become the patriarch.
No, he doesn't become a patriarch, but he would like to.
That's what I'm saying. He's trying to.
Okay. Take his father's place, although Jacob is still alive. It's not the only case like this in the Old Testament. You may remember a young man named Absalom, who was his daddy.
David.
David was king. Absalom had a revolt against his father, a coup. One of the things he did when he took Jerusalem, set up a tent near the city of David, or the Mount Zion, and goes into the tent and has intercourse with his father's concubine, trying to display to the people that he now is in control of the kingdom. Doesn't work out too well for Absalom. But it's a way of trying to say, I'm in charge now. But it interests me that they don't say anything more about it. At this point, he is not successful in supplanting his father. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. Sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Sons of Rachel, Joseph, Benjamin. Sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, Dan and Naphtali. Sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Padan Aram. Notice, I'm sure you have on this right away, but there are several lists, hard for me to say, lists, L-I-S-T-S, of these 12 sons of Jacob in the Old Testament, and at least one in the New, in the book of Revelation, no two of which are exactly alike. Notice that. Well, for example, here Joseph is listed as one of the tribes, at least 12 sons. But later on, the Joseph tribe is divided into two tribes. named for his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Somebody gets left out. Tribes listed number 2, otherwise you would have 13. But I'm not going to tell you how that works out, is it? But listed here because we're coming to the end of Jacob's life, and because we need to remember that Reuben was the firstborn. He just tried an unsuccessful attempt to take over. And Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. Isaac breathed his last, and he died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days. Sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Isaac lived 180 years, and I can't get my mind around that, let alone the 900 years of people before the flood. I'm approaching 80 years, 75 to be exact. If I got to 80, I would be amazed if I were to live 100 years after that. Mainly because I don't think my body could take it. My hips seem to fall apart. But that's what Isaac did. And I love these poetic obituaries at the end of some of the patriarchs. He breathed his last. He died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days. Now, tell me what it means to be gathered.
Well, everybody dies, so all the people are gone. Goes gone.
How is he gathered to them? Keep in mind, they know very little, if anything, about an afterlife.
Well, they're buried.
Buried probably in a family tomb would be one way of looking at it. And archaeologists and other scholars in modern times have suggested refers to some of their burial practices. They would put a body in a family tomb until it decomposed. They would gather the bones and put them in a common area with bones of the ancestors. It would be literally gathered to his people.
Casket.
No, they didn't use caskets. They might wrap them up in a cloth. They put them in a tomb, an open tomb. I mean, like a cave or a pit. Okay, just a little sideline there. I'm thankful that in the New Testament we know much more about the afterlife. The Old Testament focuses mostly on this life. Okay, chapter 36. I'm going to read quickly through all of Esau's descendants, this genealogy, and then ask Becky to recite them alphabetically. No? Not willing? What if I double your pay? Well, I wasn't going to do that anyway. This is the generations of Esau. It says at the beginning, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites. Those 2 wives are listed.
Anything of note?
I'll note a couple of things. It lists first the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan, verse 5. But Esau, verse 6, took his wives, his sons, his daughters, all the members of his household, his livestock, all his beasts, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he went into a land away from his brother Jacob, for their possessions were too great for them to dwell together. The land of their sojournings could not support them because of the many livestock. Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. Now that kind of whitewashes what really happened between Jacob and Esau. Esau didn't just move away with all of his livestock because there wasn't enough land to support them. They had a falling out as brothers, and later, as you remember, they get reconciled. Esau is Edom. The land of Edom comes from his descendants. which would be modern-day Jordan, southern part of Jordan. And then a whole bunch of sons are listed. We're not going to read them from verse 9 through verse 30. Feel free to read those and meditate on them yourself. Say something about that?
No, there's probably some doozies in there if you're looking for names.
Yeah, I would suggest you name your next son or grandson Oholibama. Guarantee there won't be another one in this first grade class. Oholibama. Verse 31 tells us these are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom, before any king reigned over the Israelites. And it lists the kings or the princes who reigned there. And verse 40, these are the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their clans and their dwelling places by their name. The chiefs Timnah, Alva, Geseth, Oholibama, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Teman, Ibzar, Magiel, and Iram. These are the chiefs of Edom, that is, Esau, father of Edom, according to their dwelling places, land of their possession. Two questions, or at least one main question I have about this. How did the Israelites obtain the genealogy of Esau and included it in Genesis? Typical way of mapping up a person. What's your guess?
Well, each family probably had a historian of sorts to keep genealogical records because it was very important to them for some reason or other.
Various reasons. And somebody in Esau's descendants kept this record, probably recited it on important occasions when the family was together, reminding them of their heritage and of God's blessings of the family. I assume one of Esau's family, much later than Esau, gave this to Israel. Perhaps it even ended up in the great libraries of Egypt where Moses would have come across it in his studies there. But I don't know for sure. But guess what, fellow Bible students? We finally have come to, and next time we'll start,
Joseph!
the story of Joseph, which will take up most of the rest of Genesis.
They got any women in Edom?
Nope.
No women in Edom.
Women are there, or they wouldn't have all these sons.
That's right.
But they don't get mentioned. Sorry. Except as the mothers occasionally. Like verse 18, these are the sons of Oholibama, Esau's wife. That's the name that can be given to either gender, because later it's one of the princes, kings of Edomite.
Maybe she was the princess.
No, not going to have that. Yet. But the Edomites will play an important role later. Connection with Israel. We got to quit. We've run far too long today. I hope you've learned something from this, and I hope you're looking forward, as I am, beginning Joseph's story next time. But remember, as always, don't send money.